Okay, I'm going to be talking about environmentally hazardous wrecks, especially in Gulf of Finland. And why I'm talking about these wrecks in Gulf of Finland, you'll see soon. And as I'm giving this talk, I'm, figuratively speaking, wearing two hats. The other is of our Finnish Environment Institute, SYKE, which is, as from the beginning of this year, been responsible for data gathering of these harmful wrecks. And my specific role is a research vessel operator, and I run our darling old lady Aranda, together with Panu, who's sitting there in the audience. And as we're always looking for new work for the ship, so this is it. I'll come back to that later. Anyway, the wrecks are there; they're unseen, and the rust never sleeps, as we know. And actually, these days, you people might have looked at the news flashes and things, and the world is actually waking up to realize that war is the greatest environmental catastrophe at all times. Stuff happens real quick, and you just throw away everything in a very wanton way. And then when it's done, the damage will be with us for a long time. But the big difference is that on the ground, everything will be tidied up pretty soon. But on the seabed, everything remains. All the history, but also all the environmental threats. And this is what I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, and this is the darling old lady which we operate with Panu. Anyway, case Gulf of Finland, our home water. This has always been since the time of the Variaga, the Vikings who traveled along the Gulf of Finland from west to east, along the rivers into Constantinople, and made the mistake of founding modern Russia in the process. Anyway, this has been one of the most important trade routes in the world ever since, and it continues to be so. And as it is in the Northern Hemisphere, it has seen plenty of trade and plenty of war. The trade to Russia, which is at the easternmost part of the Gulf of Finland, has always been of significant importance in Europe and all over the world. And every war that's been fought in the Northern Hemisphere, it has been fought here, and in a significant way. Actually, in both world wars, Gulf of Finland has been the most heavily mined sea area in the world. In the Second World War alone, over 60,000 main marine mines were laid in Gulf of Finland by all participants. The Soviets, the Germans, us, and this is only the major mines. It doesn't count the smaller banks that go along where you try to hinder the clearing of the minefields. So, and also this area is very seasonal. There's winter. It's very difficult to navigate. So there will be a lot of wrecks. And there are a lot of wrecks, as we know. About these hazardous wrecks, up to present, the data collection and the surveys and even the eventual salvage has been divided between authorities. This is the Environment Institute, the Finnish Navy, Finnish Coast Guard, and so on. But this has been very unclear. And it is only now that actually authorities and politicians are waking up to the fact that these problems actually exist. And yes, it's a very dear and expensive process in clearing up these wrecks. It's still much cheaper than clearing up the oil from the sea or from the shores. That's actually one order of magnitude more expensive, and the damage is already done. So everybody's waking up to this, and as part of this, from this year onwards, the legal responsibility of data gathering and data collection of these wrecks, and actually even the eventual organizing of the salvage has been on SYKE. And this, as I already mentioned, these wrecks have been appearing on the seabed steadily, but there's actually two periods that stand out: 1914 to 1918, 1939 to 1945, also known as First and Second World Wars. And that's when really shit hit the fan, and a lot of wrecks went down. The basis of all data gathering, of course, is the archival work. You need to know what happened and where to start looking for. And this is what what both the authorities are doing and voluntary groups like Badewanne are doing. And now we've set to start working as a legal entity as well, SYKE and Aranda. And of course, one of my aims is to get this pre-survey salvage work as a part of regular Baltic Sea environmental monitoring program, which is being carried out on Aranda. So, but eventually somebody needs to go diving to find out what there is, and find out what is the status of each wrecks. Diving can be undertaken by divers or by ROVs or whatever. Okay, going into the principal environmental threats in these wrecks, and it's practically broken down into two main sections: is the chemical substances, and that is the oils, the fuel on board, and then the derelict fishing gear, of which we will be hearing more today, as far as I understand. Anyway, and the terminology I put it here: unexploded ordnance, UXO. When you see that abbreviation, it means the unexploded ordnance. The other one is the DFG, the derelict fishing gear. Those are more or less the official definitions. Anyway, oil has been used as a fuel for warships ever since World War II. Around halfway through the war, it was found out that actually coal is just not, energy density of the coal is not enough. So you need to have a better fuel to fuel these ships to make them go faster. It was the invention of gas turbine that needed the excess amount of steam produced, and you can do that practically only by using oil as a fuel, and that's what you got. And we have plenty of First World War wrecks that were oil burners. So that's one of the main things. And also we need to understand that the oils that we use as like marine gas oil, marine diesel oil, MDOG, MGO used on ships today, that's practically salad dressing. It's not very harmful. But the stuff that they used during the wars, that's a totally different ballgame. Especially in the Second World War, with the shortage of oil for Nazi Germany, they made substitute oils called lignin oils that were made out of coal. And that is a substance that you would never ever be allowed to make anything like that today. It's carcinogenic, it's mutagenic, it's highly toxic in so many ways. And luckily in our water there are no ships that would contain this substance. And this we have learned from the archival studies. But for instance, on the Norwegian coast, there are many wrecks that have this stuff on board. And marine biological studies have already shown that marine life shows mutations and all kinds of problems caused from these. So explosives, they are also poisonous substances, but the bigger problem of them is the possibility that they can still go bang if you move them around, and so they are actually a hindrance and a problem that needs to be solved if you want to salvage a wreck. For instance, the ROVs that you use to clamp onto the ship's side and bore through in order to reach the bunker tanks, they use very heavy magnets, and many of the mines, actually the main German mines, you'll see an image of them soon. They are actually magnetically activated, so you don't want to be driving a working class ROV over. And we have wrecks. We have 50 mines on board, perhaps. So there is the possibility, and these things need to be cleared first. Then there is the subject of derelict fishing gear. So in Finland, the Gulf of Finland has always been very high fishing activity, especially during the Soviet times. There were many fishing sub-houses, kolhouses on the Estonian side, because the Soviet Union demanded canned fish, and Baltic herring and sprat were plenty available. And in those days, these guys didn't carry GPS or anything like that. So a lot of trawls got stuck on these wrecks, as they're in the offshore area, in the same area where they do pelagic trawling. And when you think of it, even today, about 10,000 nets, and this includes the gill nets, are being lost in the Baltic Sea annually. And when you think of this fishing gear, the nets, pelagic trawls, all these things, they're made of synthetic materials, and they will not rot. The only thing that stops them from catching fish is biofouling accumulation, which eventually causes them to sort of fall down, get clogged. But they will retain their catching efficiency for a long time. You'll see a couple of pictures soon. So these are the principal environmental threats. But then you go into how much, what, or where. Then you need to face the fact that the picture is incomplete. So existing information, we need to collect all that, and we need to form it into a database. And this process has already been started, and it's ongoing in SYKE. There's missing, unclear cases. We know that some ships went down. They're missing. We need to find them, and we need to find out how they look like. What's their status? And then we have our specific problems in the Gulf of Finland, the legacy wreck. Now, legacy wreck, that is a term that's being used on warships. And the problem with warships is that they are outside all of the marine pollution conventions. The flag states all claim that they own all the rights and nobody is allowed to touch them. But whereas them as an environmental problem, they assume no responsibility, none whatsoever. So this is the problem. The legacy wrecks and in any kind of activities with them, you need to be very you need to use special discretion and special methodology. And there are also war graves. And this I already mentioned this now, all this work is something that would involve citizen science. Where we have recreational, technical divers, they're diving these wrecks anyway. Most of them take imagery, still photos, video. This is something that needs to be kept in mind. I'll come back to that later. Anyway, as you can see, the images on the left-hand side, that's a German EMC 350, magnetically induced marine mine. That's the main thing, the biggest bang during the Second World War. And in the middle panel, there's a sunken German submarine with a lot of trawl attached, and you can see two gray seals that have been looking for fish around these wrecks, gotten entangled into the trawling and drowned. And then in the anoxic waters at 75 meters, they're slowly decaying. They're covered with this, it looks like a blue cheese sauce, the anaerobic bacteria growth. And it takes many years for them to decompose. Every wreck that has any significant amount of derelict fishing gear have these seals that have been entangled. And most of the wrecks do have the DFG. And what you need to understand is that a seal is a very streamlined thing. Quite the other ball game if you compare it to a technical diver with a rebreather on the back, 200 stages hanging around, cameras and everything. So this underlines the fact that when you dive these wrecks, you need to have eyes at the back of your head. You need to be extremely conscious of where you are because of the fishing gear. And on the right-hand panel, you can see a diver, and there's several of these EMC mines. You can see how they're gone in, imploded in a way at the water pressure at 70 meters, and they were actually leaning on a 4-tube torpedo launcher. And each tube does have a torpedo. 250K warheads, 350K of TNT in each of the mines. If that thing goes bang, I mean, it's serious shit. And the wreck they're on, the estimate is it still has about minimum 250 tons of oil. So, okay, how to tackle the threats of these wrecks? Okay, the general understanding that's been developed in, let's say, last decade in Europe and all over the world is that the actual salvage must be undertaken by commercial contractors, these international salvage companies. They have the gear, they have the expertise, they have the insurance, they know how to do it. But in order and this is, of course, it's at minimum you're talking 7-figure sums here. And this needs to be, this is a tendering process, of course. And in order to put up the tendering process, the companies must have something to base their bid on. And for this, you need a proper pre-salvage survey, which means that you do a complete survey of the wreck. You first start with the desktop survey, and you gather all the information you have of them, all the technical drawings, everything. Then you do the in-site survey, which you can do by diving, using ROVs and hydroacoustics, of course, multi-beam sonars, and a lot of sampling and stuff. And of course, the goal is to create a very good three-dimensional image of the wreck, so that you can turn it around, look at it, and make assumptions. Quite often, you need to do thickness measurements of the hull plates in order to understand what is the stage of decomposition of these rigs. And again, one thing is that when a ship sinks, first of all, the big problem is that they go all the way to the bottom. And these operations, they happen offshore, so they usually are in a little bit deeper areas. So you have to look at how the wreck is and get laying on the seabed and get all the information on how she sank. So because the oils can actually be found in very funny places in these ships. They might no longer be in the bunker tanks. They could be somewhere else. One project, Kari has been involved with Immis company, and we have done the same on these two ships on the Archipelago Sea, where when the Navy emptied them, actually the oil was under the gunwale and the deck. So, you know, it's funny that a Navy diver was there looking. What is that? Put his hand up there. So there was like a ton or two of oil, diesel oil. The UXOs, the derelict fishing gear must be assessed, and at the end you need to be able to create a good image of the wreck. This is just a enhanced multi-beam. This is not a three-dimensional photogrammetric model. And this is of course, you've seen the image before. This is one of our main babies, if you like, the German destroyer Z-36 in the middle of Gulf of Finland. It's loaded, brimful loaded with UXOs. It's all wrapped in derelict fishing gear and trawls, and she still, but we'll come back to this, she still carries 250 tons of diesel. And now I put on my research vessel operator hat again. The actual salvage of the wrecks must be undertaken by the constructor, but as I said, you need to do a proper pre-salvage survey. And as we're currently, with Panu, we're looking for new jobs for our lady. So this is it. We have all the equipmentation. You can see in the image some of the main equipmentation that we have on Aranda, which are especially suitable for this kind of work. So this is one thing that we are doing. And then concerning the tools for conducting a pre-salvage survey, archival and historic research, of course, that's where everything starts, the desktop study. You find out everything you know about the case. And also including the assessment of oils, because even that, especially if you're talking about German wrecks, Kriegsmarine or Kaiserliche Marine, Germans are very good for keeping records. And actually the good thing is that the Kriegsmarine records, everything was kept, because Amiral Dönitz wanted to keep everything, to be able to show that they did nothing wrong. So we're lucky in that respect. Only the records that were destroyed in bombings and stuff. And for instance, for the Z-36, we could find out that actually for the operation in January 1944, they scrounged the last mineral oils in Libau. So she wasn't fueled by lignin oil, which is a good thing. Anyway, archival work, then it's hydroacoustic surveys. You use side scan sonar, multi-beam, sub-bottom profilers to find out the nature of the bottom in the area. Is it soft sediments or glacial sediments or hard bottom? Chirp, which is a hydroacoustic thing that has multiple frequencies on the same blow, so you get a pretty complete picture of the seabed. Then, of course, there's imaging eventually by ROV and or diving by using still photography and video, and then you create all that, the point clouds from the multi-beam, all the video and imagery, and you create a good three-dimensional photogrammetry model, which you can use to really examine the wreck. And in this, the point clouds from multi-beam is very essential, because that, and when you fit that in the model, then you can be sure that all the dimensions are right. Many wrecks have already been salvaged in Finnish waters. The salvage work has been carried out by Navy and commercial constructors, but the problem is that these have been this have been the nice wrecks that have not been too deep, and the work has been very successful. You can see the Park Victory, several of the coastal ships. The lower left-hand panel shows a three-dimensional model that was created by Kari and Immi and their company, and also Badewanne contributed to that. In the middle panel, in the lower, is the Navy salvage vessel, or the diving support vessel, and the lower right hand is a Navy diver working on one of these beetroot carriers that sank in the 80s in the Archipelago Sea. But what we have is just the difficult ones. Those are the ones that remain, the ones that went all the way to the bottom in the deeper areas. They're deeper. They're requiring ROV work quite often, and if you dive, it's mixed gas or even saturation diving in terms of doing real work in there. There are war graves. There are unexploded ordnance. The derelict fishing gear often covers them all the way, and all this must be considered prior to salvage. And all this information of all this has a very important role in the pre-salvage survey. And also there are the needs of historic research. And therefore the role of this pre-salvage survey is very, very important. And we actually had our first pre-salvage survey cruise last year in Aranda. It was carried out with the authorities, the Navy, Coast Guard, and we had a British consultant company, the Waves Group, that has done a lot of consulting work in Nordic countries very successfully, and we're really happy we hired them, as they are now helping us and teaching us how to properly carry out pre-salvage surveys. And then, of course, the Finnish company Loxus that we used as ROV operators. The survey was on a tugboat Simpson that sank off Utö in the 80s and 70s, sorry, and this survey was actually successful. We could establish that the fuel tanks are ruptured, and the 20-30 tons of diesel that was supposed to be on board, it's long gone. And then this is what we do, and now I again put on my Badewanne mütze, and what are the other avenues for in pursuit of collection of data on these environmentally hazardous wrecks? This is where the citizen science steps in. We have plenty of teams, plenty of people who do technical diving. They're actually quite proficient in underwater imaging, and these people are actually looking for meaningful things to enhance their pastime, and also to do meaningful things for the betterment of the environmental status of the Baltic Sea. So I think I suggest here, I've already talked with Sari about this earlier. So what I suggest is that we put up some kind of a portal, and we could probably do this in SYKE, where divers visiting the wrecks could supply information, could insert information on the status of the wreck, images, how much derelict fishing gear there is, do they see any UXOs, and so on. Have they seen oil leaks and all that? As I will be retiring in a year, so I would be happy to assist in this, but this task needs to be picked up by somebody other than me. But I think we have something here. Markku said that the voluntary divers are the only resource. In this case, they're not the only one, but they would be a most important one. I'm really serious about this. You guys should think about. Okay, so these are our new challenges from this year onwards. And the most important for my part, which I still try to do during my working time, is to include the assessment of environmentally hazardous wrecks into the Baltic Sea monitoring program. We do 4 monitoring cruises annually with Aranda, and everything else is included. And I would just like to bring the wrecks into this. And also, I personally think that citizen science project for organized data collection would be of great essence here. And there's my darling ship that's steaming happily along, and the other image is the Project 7 destroyer Nevnyi at the bottom of the Gulf of Finland, and the glorious emblem of the Soviet Union right where it belongs. Okay, thank you very much.